Jason Gilbo here with Justin Elick, taking a look at some GPP bats for tonight's slate. 15 games again. I mean, finally getting into the swing of the season where it's not all broken up between, 5 games early on and then 11 later.
See, I kind of like the two slates sometimes because I like to play twice in a day. Obviously, you can have your bad day slate. Maybe your pitcher gets rocked or whatever, and then you go have another chance at night. Or ideally, you win on both slates, which obviously happens sometimes. But I don't know. The 15-game slates are a lot of fun because you don't really have to worry about any one team or any one player being super high owned. I mean, high owned on the slate like this is what, 10, 15%. You're going to see guys like Harper up there like that. But really, you don't worry about ownership at all. I mean, it's finally actually about just getting the best players. So it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think that's what I like. I mean, it spreads things out quite a bit. Looking at catcher here first, this was a position I kind of struggled with yesterday as far as like finding someone that I truly loved. And I feel like today it's a little bit better, but I don't know if I'm still in love with the position right now.
No, I'm really not either. I mean, you want to wish that a guy like Buster Posey still had the upside he once did. And I mean, I know he homered off Kershaw, but I'm still not really buying that. So, I mean, at catcher, it's not really I don't actually kind of like him. I mean, Julio Urias is pretty good, but at the same time, I mean, he's still a young pitcher. He had some troubles when he came up last year. So, I mean, Posey's a fine option, but really for me, I mean, for the most part, I'm trying to get DeGrom in my lineup, so I'm not going to be paying up a catcher.
Yeah, I don't think I am either. And I think if I am, it's probably going to be Brian McCann against Nick Martinez. I mean, I know you and I both like Houston bats, and McCann's probably one of the bottom order guys that I'll take a shot on.
Yeah, and I mean, got the day off yesterday too, so he's in a good spot. He's been hitting the ball hard too. I think another guy in that similar price range is Russell Martin. I'm not a believer in CC Sabathia, and Martin obviously pretty inconsistent, but he's been making good contact recently. He does have some upside. Still not the wind we saw yesterday, which, I mean, a couple of those homers, the wind obviously did not even matter. But
Judge.
Yeah, he's unbelievable. My God. But it's like as soon as he hits the ball, you just see the cameraman like zoom out as far as he possibly can trying to find the ball. But, I mean, I think that's still a pretty good spot for him. So I'll probably play him a little bit. But, yeah, around that price point, I think those are the two guys I'm looking at.
Yep, I'm with you there. I think if I am diving down, which I probably am, I know Derek Norris is hitting under 200 this year, but 46% hard contact against lefties. Strikeout rate is down against left-handers compared to against righties. I mean, notably over his career, I mean, he has hit lefties well.
Yeah.
I just like the platoon bats on the Rays side tonight. I also like Marlins bats. I mean, it's in Tropicana. I mean, I still think you can get great value here.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I mean, there's some more guys we'll talk about there, but I think that's, he's dirt cheap. I mean, what, 2,300 on FanDuel? So I'm on board because I remember a couple of years ago when, he was in Oakland and you just played him against the lefty, like, period. I mean, he was always too cheap. And I mean, I'm not a believer that he's the hitter that he once was there, but I like that spot for him. And I think another guy similarly priced who I really, really like, and I love playing against lefties, is Josh Phegley. It's only 2,500 on FanDuel. He just, throughout his career, I mean, I'm not going to say he mashes lefties, but he's got good splits against lefties. And then you got on the opposite side of him, I mean, you're looking at Hector Santiago, who gives up a ton of fly balls, and his home runs per nine are way down this year, but you look at the fact that he's given up a BABIP under 180. I mean, he's getting really, really lucky so far. So home runs are going to start coming in bunches, and I like the Oakland bats a lot tonight.
Yeah, Phegley's a guy. He's just your modern-day Derek Norris there in Oakland.
The modern day. Because since 2013, all of a sudden it's the modern day. But, yeah, I mean, the modern era that started recently, I like Phegley more than Norris. I kind of – wait, were they both on the same team at some point?
I don't know if they were or not because I know
Steven Vogt too.
There was like 3 catchers that they'd roll in and out.
Yeah, I think Phegley might have come right after he left. But either way, I mean, I remember that whole situation. There was like, all right, are they facing a righty? Cool, you're playing Vogt. Are they facing a lefty? You're playing Norris.
Yeah.
Sometimes you get a DH, but yeah, I mean, I think honestly, if I'm paying down, Phegley's probably the guy I'm locking in.
I like Phegley. First base, are numerous options you can go with.
I mean, many.
there really are a ton, and that's why I kind of like on a 15-game slate because uh, diving into this Arizona Washington game first, I feel like both first basemen are in play. I mean, two lefties on the hill, two guys that are absolutely hitting the ball really well. I mean, Zimmerman over his last few years, I mean, obviously he's dropped off against right-hand pitching, but the lefty numbers have still been there. And now all of a sudden, I mean, he just looks like I don't know, Mickey Mantle up there.
I mean, he's been easily a top 5 hitter so far this year. He's been unbelievable, and I mean, they still aren't pricing him, like a top hitter. I mean, Matt Carpenter is more expensive than him on FanDuel. His game's probably not going to play anyway, but I mean, just putting that in perspective, Carpenter hasn't been nearly as good as Zimmerman. I mean, Zimmerman's averaging, I think, more fantasy points than any non-Bryce Harper player. Isn't that right? At least close. I mean, I think last time I saw, I thought it was Harper 1 and him 2, which obviously those things kind of go hand in hand. But I mean, I like him a lot. Obviously, we get Goldschmidt against the lefty, we get Stanton against the lefty. You know my stance on that. I lean towards Stanton, but just because there's way more options at first base. But I'm definitely on board there. I think a guy I'm going to play a lot is Mark Reynolds. You get Jared Weaver. We keep talking about how terrible he is. His FIP's over 7. BABIP's still under 200. I mean, he's just going to get absolutely slaughtered, and it's going to keep getting worse and worse. 3 home runs per 9. I mean, and I think people will probably look at the guys like Arenado and Blackman here, but I mean, especially with all these first base options, I think Mark Reynolds is a nice pivot, and he's cheap too.
I like Reynolds. I like those Colorado bats and Petco tonight. I mean, on a 15-game slate, they're definitely going to draw low ownership. I think even with Weaver on the hill, I think their prices, on FanDuel are ridiculously cheap. If I did have to take a look, I don't want to go right back to the well with Hanley because he hit 2 homers last night, but dude's absolutely locked in. This is such a good spot for him against Gausman because Gausman just looks really bad this year.
Yeah, Gausman just kind of fell right off a cliff. He's been horrible. So, but I mean, that's like you said, that's a good thing about 15-game slate though, is because even though there's a lot of guys actually hit 2 homers last night, but you imagine of what is it? Was it 3 or 4 guys? It was Bruce, Judge, Gardner, and Hanley. So 4. I mean, you imagine Hanley will have the lowest ownership of those 4 guys that homered twice last night. Maybe Gardner, I guess.
I would say Gardner against Stroman.
Yeah, that's true. But I mean, yeah, Hanley's been, aside from that, he's got 4 homers in his last 4 games now.
So, and absolute moonshots.
Just straight bombs.
Yeah, he's dialed in.
I wish we'd go back to the good old days where you could get him at shortstop on DK. Just lock him in. But obviously those days, talking about the modern era, because that was a couple of years ago too.
You can get him at outfield on DK. So, I mean.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Bad.
But yeah, I'm on board with that too.
Yeah. And this is a position I think you mentioned Reynolds. I just don't think I'll be paying down at. I think Reynolds would be the cheapest guy that I'd go because I think Zimmerman at 3.8, Hanley 3.7, that's value in consideration to where like Rizzo, Freeman, Goldschmidt are at right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, any full slate like this where you have all the top bats, you're going to see more often than not, 3 to 4 of these guys have pretty big games, and paying down hoping for a dinger from, a lesser player is not usually my strategy on these slates. Pay down a catcher, get a good first baseman.
Yeah. I think one other name that stood out to me as far as pricing wise, and he's been sluggish so far to start the year, but Edwin Encarnacion, 3.3 on FanDuel, 3.9 on DK. Against Matt Boyd, I mean, I know Encarnacion is striking out a ton this year, but look at Boyd, I mean, not a big strikeout guy. When Encarnacion's getting the ball on the bat, I mean, he's hitting the ball incredibly hard. I think for him, I mean, value-wise, because he fits in with DeGrom, he fits in with Carrasco, whoever you're using on the hill tonight.
Yeah, and I mean, like you mentioned with Boyd, 38.6% hard hit rate against righties, so he's getting mashed too. He had that one kind of fluky start against who was it, Minnesota, I think, in that day game.
Yeah.
But I mean, he's just not been good. Gives up way too much hard contact, too many fly balls. Yeah, I'm with you there. That's a good spot.
And you're going to get him. I mean, Encarnacion, I think over this last week or so, I just find him around like 5 to 7% owned.
Yeah, I mean, he might not even get that tonight, you figure, on this slate.
No. So, anyone else you want to talk about here at first base?
No.
Second base, this is a spot where I kind of want to pay down at too, but there wasn't a ton that I was in love with cheap. As far as top guys, I mean, you're digging anyone here?
I mean, honestly, the best hitter at second base over the last week has been Josh Harrison by a mile.
Yeah.
He's been unbelievable. I mean, I guess recency bias, you kind of think maybe his ownership will be high, but he's finally getting priced up. I mean, 3,300 is not exactly cheap for him there. So, I think he's a guy you definitely have to consider. I mean, facing another bad Reds pitcher in Cincinnati. So I think really if I'm paying up, it's going to be Jose Altuve.
Yeah, I think so too. I like attacking Martinez. I look at Robinson Cano. I sort of like in like a contrarian way, but I don't know if I want to go that route. I'm with you. I think Altuve kind of tops out. I mean, Dozier, VR, I don't mind those guys, but yeah, Altuve it's too good of a spot for these Astros bats.
Yeah, I mean, I think definitely if I'm paying up, he's kind of head and shoulders above the rest for me there.
Yeah, yeah, but I think Harrison's at a really nice price. I mean, as far as like cheap guys go, I hate the guy, but
Oh, I know who you're saying. I was going to say him too. Go ahead.
is it Jed Lowry?
Oh no, that's close actually, but no.
It's Jed Lowry. I mean, he's cheap. He's hitting what, third in the lineup for some reason, but I
For
mean,
some reason.
getting that same matchup. I mean, he's never going to kill your lineup either at his price, and he's going to get on base. He's a decent on base guy.
Yeah, I mean, he's a guy that I've been slotting into a lot of lineups where I get some big bats because he's just been so cheap. He's been 2,300 for the most part, almost every slate.
Yeah,
So I like him. And then talking about a guy that I absolutely hate, but he's hitting lefties pretty hard this year. Adam Rosales is only 2,500 facing a fly ball pitcher. So if you got to be cheap and you don't want to go with Lowry, he'll probably be higher owned than that. I mean, Rosales has been what? He's batting leadoff against lefties, right?
he has been. Yeah, they bumped him up. Yeah, I
So
don't mind Rosales either.
I still absolutely hate him as a player, but I mean, he's got decent pop against lefties for cheap. And like I said, I expect Santiago very soon is going to have one of those blow up games where he gives up 3-4 homers. And I think this could be the night.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. And I think if I'm tossing out one more name in the mid range, I want the Mets lefties here to just absolutely crush Cologne because they really should. I mean, they absolutely should. They didn't in that first start, but I think the second start around they can get to him. So Neil Walker, you'll get him at 5%.
And I mean, he's hits fastballs pretty well. I don't know how he hits these slow balls against Cologne.
Does it even register as a fastball anymore?
No, it's not a fastball. I don't. There was somebody. I'll have to look and see what the BVP, but I feel like there was somebody for the Mets that had just ridiculously bad numbers against Cologne. And I don't know.
Walker, now that we're thinking.
Oh, it was Asdrubal Cabrera, 1 for 20. Oof. Get it together, man. 1 for 20 against Cologne. Like, I know you're getting old too, but Jesus, man. just stand there, wait a couple extra seconds, and swing hard. Like, it can't be that hard.
You know what they need to do is they need to take the Mets to the batting cages today and go on the absolute slowest one possible.
And go on the softball setting where they just throw it underhand.
Like where you got to just, it like wings it up and over like and tosses it. It's not one of the ones that shoot out.
Yeah, exactly. The one where like you think it's kind of jammed and you get stuck and it just lobs. Because that's what it is. I mean, what is this fastball now? 85, 86?
Yeah.
If that. I mean, as long as he stays in the NL forever, then I'm cool.
Yeah. Anyone else at second base?
No, I don't think so.
Third base here tonight. This is a spot where, I mean, I think I can go back to the well here with Miguel Sano. I mean, I'm not really in love with, like, Arenado's price. I think Chris Bryant's in a tougher matchup just because Eichhoff is a little bit tougher on righties. I just think Sano kind of comes in and fits the bill for me again.
Yeah, I mean, that hard hit rate was like, almost 70% over the last 2 weeks. I mean, all he does is just mash the ball. So it's really hard for me most nights not to play him. But similarly priced, a guy who's actually overall numbers for the year look like they're terrible, but recently been drawing a lot of walks. And I mean, if you look at his logs, I mean, they've been pretty good. It's Todd Frazier. I mean, been really consistent over the last couple of weeks, even though he only has 3 total homers. So Nate Karns, a guy who's been pretty terrible so far this year. So obviously Frazier's not a guy you're going to be paying up for, in cash games or anything, but a nice contrarian option because of all those top guys you mentioned, Arenado, Sano, even Manny Machado, they're going to eat up most of that ownership. And I mean, Frazier's going to be 2%?
Yeah, I like
So
that call.
I
I
think that's
do.
a good spot.
Yeah, I mean Nate Karns, reverse splits pitcher, fly ball guy, does give up a ton of home runs. Um, and Karns isn't missing bats. So I mean, I think Frazier's a good play. He was kind of one of those guys where I was like, I also kind of liked Jose Abreu, but because there's too many other positions that are too many other guys in the positions, I was like, nah.
Yeah, I mean he's definitely overpriced. I'll say that, but it's I think it's a decent spot just for a low ownership kind of play with upside. I mean, the guy's a good hitter. He got off to a bad start this year, but I like to see the things like all the walks he's been drawing recently. So obviously his plate discipline's getting better. Seemed like he was just kind of trying too hard for the first couple weeks.
Yeah. Justin Turner is another guy that I like. I like the Dodgers bats tonight, and well, mainly I'll take the lefties against the Marshall all day, but Justin Turner's just too damn good against right-handers to really ignore. And I feel like FanDuel, he's never going to draw high ownership because his price is around all those other names that we just talked about, and then DK just continuously underprices them.
Yeah, I like that spot too. Charlie Morton, we know he's been terrible against lefties throughout most of his career. Joey Gallo, even stealing a couple bases. He's home run or bust for the most part. Obviously, you would never even consider him in cash games, or you shouldn't. But I mean, when he makes contact, I mean, there's not a whole lot of guys who have bigger upside than he does. So I think, like we mentioned with those top guys, he's kind of in that range right below there that I think he's going to, come at pretty low ownership.
Yep, I'm with you. I like Gallo. Another guy where I'm just like never a huge fan, but I don't mind tonight is Jose Reyes. Um, I mean, the guy's producing. His numbers overall in the season look awful, but his numbers over the last 7 or 8 games have been, I mean, really solid. And against Cologne, I mean, I like the lefties against Cologne. I think they do rebound after that start, a week or 10 days ago or something like that.
Yeah, I like that spot too. There's two other guys I like. I don't even know how you say this dude's name. Gurio. It's only 2,700 for the Astros facing Nick Martinez. We mentioned their bats. He's the cheapest one that actually has, some upside. So I like him. And then supposed to return to the lineup, Evan Longoria. I know it's more of a historical thing against lefties, but Adam Conley, obviously not going to be, you don't expect it to be as bad as last time, but we mentioned, Rays could be one of those sneaky teams that for cheap can put up a big number, and Longo should, be right back in his spot right in the middle of the order.
Yeah, and a name popped up to me. I mean, in that same game, he hasn't looked good so far this year, but I think this is a matchup where we could get back on track. Um, Similar price, Martin Prado. I mean, against lefties, I mean, he's been absolutely great the last few years, and he hasn't looked great this year. But I mean, 424 Woboff lefties going back to last year. He just
Yeah,
doesn't. He doesn't swing and miss either.
he's just always that kind of forgotten guy. Like you mentioned, he always puts it in play. I mean, doesn't have a whole lot of upside power
Probably a better
wise,
cash
but
game guy.
yeah, but I mean, still, we've seen that team have put up some big innings, and I mean, bases loaded, him hit a double, you're gonna pay off quick.
Yeah. Shortstop. I think sticking with the Houston trend, I like Correa. I know the numbers haven't been exactly consistent this year, but I think it makes him a good GPP play because I mean, he's been hitting the ball really hard. I feel like he's been rather unlucky. He's hitting the ball into the ground a little bit more than I like, but against Martinez here, I like him a lot.
Yeah, I kept seeing all these numbers about his StatCast data and all this, and he's been hitting the ball really hard, making a ton of hard contact. But like you mentioned, in the ground, being a little bit unlucky with some BABIP. But I mean, I'm not concerned about the numbers at all. I mean, he's been much better than those numbers indicate. So, for him, you mentioned Dodgers bats. I always love Corey Seager.
Yeah.
Corey Seager is easily the best baseball player on his team and easily the best baseball player in his family. And it's not even close.
Yeah.
It's not.
No. Kyle, sorry, bud.
Look, in this modern era where Kyle Seager is not good anymore, Corey is the only Seager that matters. Just exclude Kyle Seager from your player pool.
Kyle Seager's hitting 2 homers tonight, just so you know now.
Yeah, he probably will now, and I am perfectly fine not having him because
I'm going to have him just for the sake that you said that tonight. So,
God, I hope you do. I'll play Corey Seager, and he'll actually hit 2 home runs because he actually can hit home runs still.
Yeah.
I say that. How many homers does Kyle have? 1? He might have 2.
I think he picked things up a little bit here. I don't know if it's been the home run department, but I think he's picked things up.
I don't know. He's got 1. He's got 15 RBIs,
Okay.
But
for
that price, I mean, obviously, it's Ricky Nolasco, so.
Yeah, that's true.
Whatever. Get off my screen, Kyle. You suck.
Cheap guy Tim Beckham, I like quite a bit here. Going to find himself in the top half of that lineup tonight. I mean, he's a guy who's been hitting the ball really hard and hitting lefties well. I mean, former top pick. I mean, talent's always kind of been there. He just hasn't really put it together, but he might be a late bloomer, and I think he's kind of putting it together all around this year.
Yeah, he's actually got the highest hard hit rate in all of baseball over the last 2 weeks. So I mean, and his BABIP's pretty low too. So I'm all over him tonight. I think if I'm playing cash games, I think he's going to be the guy I play. I think he's got upside too. I mean, I feel like the problem with him before and a lot of those guys when like Brandon Guyer and all these guys were in town was everybody would get platooned out. So they'd always take Beckham out after 2, sometimes 3 at-bats, and he wasn't worth playing. But now that he's finally starting to consistently hit, you're going to get him for the entire game. So I'm all about Beckham. I'm going to be playing him on most of my lineups tonight.
Yeah, I think for me it's basically Correa, Seager, and Beckham are the 3 that I'm going to be using.
And I mean, don't forget about Frankie Lindor as usual, but I don't know that I can afford his price tag tonight.
Yeah,
not with DeGrom at least.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit tough. Like he's just a couple hundred more, but I feel like that couple hundred is going to be needed.
Yeah.
So outfielder, I feel like there's a ton of options, and
man.
Some of them are kind of like priced or site dependent because I feel like the pricing in the outfield is really, really different between the 2 sites.
Yeah, I mean, the top guys kind of on a big slate like this kind of go without saying, Harper, Trout, playing when you can play them. I mean, they're going to be the highest owned guys as usual because everybody knows their names. But I mean, outside of that, like I probably won't have much of either one of them just because they're so pricey and I don't really like a lot of cheap pitchers. But I mean, obviously they're still in play. I think that for the most part, I'll be fading those 2 guys though.
I think so. I think if I was to choose one, or one of the top guys, it'd probably be Betts. Not because I'm a homer, but because Gossman's just been awful. Betts has some good numbers against Gossman in the past.
Way cheaper than Trout and Harper. Way cheaper.
Yeah, I just think that's the route I'm going to be going if I am paying up for an outfielder. But for the most part, I think there's just a ton of high upside guys at a cheaper price. Like Stanton on DraftKings, Ozuna, once again, completely underpriced against a bad lefty. 4,300 for Stanton against a lefty on DK. Just sign me up.
Yeah, and I mean, he's the 12th most expensive on FanDuel too, which is insane. Like, did you see this? I mean, his numbers this year, obviously small sample size, but it's not, 643 ISO against lefties. I mean, he's the greatest on the planet against lefties. And I mean, modern day era doesn't matter. I mean, it's just
modern day era. So like before he was hit in the head.
Yeah.
Like
so like now, like today, I mean, the chances of him not hitting a home run tonight, 40%.
Yeah, no, I'm getting him in, and then I'm playing Ozuna as well.
Yeah, Stanton's probably the first guy in my lineup tonight. Yeah. Blake Snell's crap. It's true. I mean, just to use just a brash adjective, I mean, he's not good.
No, I don't like Snell at all. Other bats here. Michael Conforto, too expensive for me on FanDuel. DraftKings completely underpriced, 3,500. I mean, this guy's been mashing the ball lately. If you need a value, I think in all formats, I mean, Conforto's the guy in DK I'll be looking at a lot.
Yeah, I like him a lot. I mean, he's finally hitting how they thought he was going to, top of that order. Chris Davis, similar price. Again, fly ball pitcher. And he's been crushing the ball recently. Hard hit rate even higher than Miguel Sano over the last couple of weeks. But Sano's got a 625 BABIP, and Chris Davis has a 167. So a guy that's mashing the ball, hitting a ton of fly balls. I mean, if I'm picking someone other than Stanton to definitely go deep tonight, it's Chris Davis.
Yeah, I like Chris Davis a lot. I mean, as you said, fly ball pitcher there, Santiago. Davis is a guy who just, I mean, multi-home run upside for sure out of him tonight.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And you're going to need that on this big of a slate.
Yeah. Gregory Polanco is another guy I'm taking a look at. Another guy I think you can kind of buy low on tonight because he's struggling. I don't think a lot of people will be completely on him on a 15-game slate. I know Rookie Davis is on the hill, so maybe people will jump on Polanco and McCutchen a little bit more than what I'd expect, but I still don't think it's going to be anything high.
Yeah, I think I don't like any Reds pitchers. I mean, none of them are any good. So I feel like you just continue to stack against these guys, and you're going to end up paying off more often than not because, I mean, Rookie Davis was absolutely horrible so far this season. It doesn't seem like it's getting better anytime soon. So another guy around a little bit cheaper than that, Ian Desmond's 3K, and I know he's historically been better against lefties, but facing Jared Weaver, who's been worse against righties, nobody's going to play him. He's only played in 2 games this year. I mean, you assume he'll probably be in the lineup tonight. He should be. But 3K for him in this spot, I think he could be that sneaky guy from that Colorado stack that nobody's going to be on.
I like Desmond, and I think they're definitely more FanDuel plays for me than they are over on DK.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Because, I mean, Blackman's not even that price is all that bad, but still on the expensive side. But yeah, Desmond I think is at a decent price to take some shots on because, and you're also looking. I mean, he's got stolen base upside too.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm a big fan of his there at that price.
Yep. If he's in the lineup, Delano Shields, I mean, hitting the ball really well. He's a guy I thought they just kind of work in against lefties from time to time, but I mean, the way he's playing right now, it looks like he's kind of earned that leadoff spot for the time being. Charlie Morton, I know he's kind of revamped his stuff a little bit, but look at the Shields. I mean, potential's there for tonight. I think some of the Texas bats are intriguing. They'll be lower owned again.
Yeah, I'm on board with that. I mean, anybody that's got – we saw, I mean, what's Billy Hamilton stolen, like 6 or 7 bags in the last three games, I think.
So, yeah, last night he reached base once, I think, and then he still came away with like, I don't know, 3-4 times value.
Steal second, steal third. I mean, it's insane. And then I think my favorite cheap bat by absolute mile is Cody Bellinger, who struggled the first couple games, but is just absolutely murdering the ball now. We know Samardzij's got some lefty issues, and that's just a crazy good spot for him once again. I mean, and they were saying originally, they said he's definitely getting sent down when everybody's back. And all of a sudden, they said he's proven he belongs, and we'll see. Send Jock down to the minors. He's been terrible even when he played this year. Dude strikes out too much. Bellinger is
send Adrian Gonzalez down to the minors.
Yeah, there you go. Let Bellinger can play first. Wasn't Bellinger first base eligible yesterday?
He's first base on DK. He's outfield on FanDuel.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
Yeah, that's the only thing that sucks about Bellinger. I would still probably play Bellinger at first base if like you're paying up for like maybe 2 expensive arms.
Oh yeah.
But it just kind of sucks that he's there. Yeah, but FanDuel, you get the luxury of playing him in the outfield at a cheap price.
Yeah.
So I feel like there's more guys that we can mention, but I think we can leave that for them to head on over to Daily Fantasy Cafe.
Yeah, absolutely.
Check it out. So if you're looking for more guys in the outfield, because there are a ton, you can head on over. Got our tools and content up. And good luck, guys.